guys, welcome back to another day of Vlogmas. I am just so excited that we are officially in Vlogmas and headed towards the Christmas season. So yes, as you can tell from the title of today's video, we are going to be prepping for Thanksgiving dinner. So I know it's Thanksgiving, but I have on my Christmas PJs from last year. If you guys can see it, it's just like red pants and this long sleeve shirt. And as you can see, I am busting out of the seams. A lot of people have actually been asking for a bump date. I can't remember what my last bump date was. I think it was at 28 weeks or something like that. So I'll just give you guys a quick little bump date right now. So we are, when you guys see this, I'll be 31 weeks and some days. But right now, I am just 30 weeks. And this is what baby girl is looking like. All right, so enough of that. If you guys are familiar with our channel, then you know our holidays just be so lit with our family. So last year we had Thanksgiving at my cousin's house. We're having Thanksgiving there again this year. So if you guys remember from last year, we were doing like karaoke. We always have like a lot of games, a lot of contests. And so that's on our Vlogmas playlist from 2019. So this year we're going back to my same cousin's house, and I have some different things that I need to prepare for Thanksgiving this year. So this year, what's on my to-do list is the sauerkraut, string beans with smoked pork neck bones, and I'm making two desserts. The first dessert is going to be like an apple crumb pie cheesecake bar, and then the second one is going to be kind of like a pineapple upside down cake, but with apples instead. So it's going to be a caramel apple upside down cake. So those are the four things we got to meal prep today. I don't really want to do too much cooking for tomorrow, so we're going to get pretty much everything done today, put in the freezer. I mean, not the freezer, put in the refrigerator. Oh my gosh. All right. I'm back. We're gonna get everything cooked, put in the fridge, so tomorrow all I have to do is put it in the oven and warm it. All right, so let's start out with the first recipe, which is the most simple and which is going to take the least amount of time. So the first thing I got here is the sauerkraut. So this is the sauerkraut I get. You can get canned, you can get jarred. It really doesn't matter, just as long as it doesn't have any like additional flavors or anything added to it. So it's just plain sauerkraut. And then king syrup, guys. Can you even believe it? Like, it depends upon your preference. I don't really like my sauerkraut really acidic, so the king syrup helps with making it just a teensy bit sweet. So like I said, this recipe is very simple and easy. I'm literally just going to throw all three of these in a pot, put some syrup in it, and let it boil away, and that's pretty much it. So let's get started on Thanksgiving meal prep. So excited! So like I said, I'm literally just going to dump the sauerkraut in this big pot. There's one. There's two. And there's three. So here's our sauerkraut, nothing special. So to this, I'm going to add about like a cup to a cup and a half of this king syrup. Again, it depends upon your preference. Sauerkraut is very sour, so that's probably like 2 cups. Sauerkraut is very sour, so you're probably going to need quite a bit of this to sweeten up the sauerkraut. So I'm just actually going to put a lid on this, let this come up to a boil, let the syrup melt down a little bit, and I'm going to let this do its thing. And then probably in like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, this will be done. Okay, so while the sauerkraut is on, I'm going to move on to my apple pie cheesecake bars, which I am the most excited about. Like, I think I'm most excited about making the cheesecake bars and the string beans. So this is not my recipe. I got this recipe off of a blog that I found on Instagram called Love from the Oven. I'm going to link the recipe down below in the description box so you guys can follow along if you would like. So her recipe actually calls for the pie crust to be made homemade. Ain't nobody got time for that. So I just went ahead and got some Pillsbury pie crust. And then I have it in this 13x9 baking pan, which I've already lined with parchment paper. So I'm gonna see how this is. I think the pie crust here are in a circular shape. I'm gonna try to see how I can fit it in here to be a square. So let's do that first things first. I've covered the entire bottom of the pan now, and now I'm just going to take a knife. You can also do this with a fork. I'm gonna just take a knife and puncture it, and so that way it doesn't rise when it's in the oven, because we actually have to put this in the oven and let it cook for a bit. This crust is going to go straight into the oven just like this for about 15 minutes on a 350-degree oven. All right, guys, so for the cheesecake part, it's a pretty standard cheesecake. I got 2 blocks of Philadelphia cream cheese. These have been sitting out at room temperature just because when you're baking, you always want to keep things at room temperature, and it's going to be easier for us to blend it. I also have 2 eggs at room temperature. I have my vanilla extract, and I have some sugar. Also got my electric hand mixer here in my mixing bowl. Like I said, this is an apple... what is she calling it? An apple pie cheesecake bar. So I'm trying to figure out if I want to add some cinnamon to my cheesecake filling. I'm going to see how much the topping calls for to see if I need it. But I'm trying to figure out if I want to do that or not. That's the beauty of just like baking and cooking. You can kind of make these recipes your own. But for right now, I'm going to just get started out with the basic recipe that she did in preparation for our crust, which should be coming out of the oven in just a few minutes. All right, so first things first, we are going to add in our packages of cream cheese, and I'm going to blend these up until it's nice and fluffy. So there's one. And when you're making a cheesecake, you want to have the best ingredients. So like Philadelphia cream cheese is like the top of the line. When you skimp on the ingredients and you go like generic and stuff like that, it really messes with the richness of the dessert. So it's Thanksgiving, we can splurge a little bit. All right. So this is nice and fluffy. To this, I'm going to add my sugar, which is just regular plain white sugar. And I'm going to mix this up as well. And then I don't know how much the recipe calls for vanilla, but you can never have too much vanilla, so I'm just going to eyeball it. Yes, that was probably too much, but who cares? So now I'm going to add 1 egg at a time. I don't know why that is, but cheesecakes always call to add 1 egg at a time. I'm adding my 2nd egg. So you see how our sauerkraut has completely transformed in color. So the first time, as I mentioned, it was more like white, and now I have that brown consistency that I was looking for. So now I'm going to try it, make sure that it's sweet enough, because sauerkraut can be very deceiving because it's so sour. There's a new fork, by the way. I'm using disposable forks so I can just taste and toss. When I say I need to add maybe like a half cup more of the king syrup, and then this is ready to go. All right, so the sauerkraut is completely ready. I'm about to just grab it off of the stove and transfer it into this aluminum dish. All right, yes, this is going to be delish tomorrow. All right, we got one side down, which is the sauerkraut. I'll probably sit this on the stove for a little bit to cool down, and I'll put this in the fridge like much later when it's much less hot. All right, so now we're going to get started on the apple topping that's going to go on top of the cheesecake, and then we're going to do the crumb chop topping that's going to go on top of the apples. So it should be crust, cheesecake, apples, crumb topping. So it's going to be bomb. So the recipe calls for Granny Smith apples, but Granny Smith apples are very tart, so I'm using Gala apples. Gala apples are just like really sweet and they're really good. I'm also going to use an apple peeler, an apple slicer, an apple peeler, some ground cinnamon, and some ground nutmeg. So that's all you need for this part. It's pretty simple, pretty easy. So to my apples, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar. And I already tested out the apples. They are already nice and sweet. I actually cut one open for myself because it was so good. I'm also going to add a full teaspoon of cinnamon, ground cinnamon. That's a half. That is a whole. And then I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. Hate nutmeg. So I'm just going to mix all of this up. Cool. Make sure all of my apples are nicely coated. So that's what our apples are looking like right now. And I'm going to set these aside, and now we're going to make the crumb topping. So for the crumb topping, it calls for 3/4 cup of flour, a 1/2 cup of quick cook oats, so just like some plain oats, 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar, 3/4 cup of brown sugar. So I'm going to just add a little bit more cinnamon. And then you need a 1/3 cup of ice cold butter cut into cubes. I'm just going to cube that now. So we are finally ready to assemble this entire thing. So let's go ahead and get started out with our cheesecake mixture. So I'm just going to spread this nice and evenly over the entire thing. And the thing about these cheesecake bars, like, they're not supposed to be as thick as a cheesecake. Like, it's supposed to be, you know, a little bit thinner than a cheesecake. So if you are wondering, now I'm just going to spread this out with a spoon. This already smells so good. And if you're not sure if you mixed it evenly, you can always just, and that'll even it out. So I'm gonna make sure that every bite has some of this, some of these apples. And lastly is our crumb mixture right on top. This is going to be so freaking good. So this is going to bake in a 350-degree oven for about 25 to 35 minutes until the cream cheese is set, and then we're going to let it cool, and it's just going to be so bubbly and nice and delicious when it comes. All right, y'all, so the final thing that I can work on, or side that I can work on tonight, is going to be the string beans with the smoked pork neck bones. I already got my neck bones right here. I'm gonna wait till tomorrow to make the caramel apple upside down cake, because I'm afraid that if I make it tonight, then the caramel might harden. I'm not quite sure, but I can't trust it, so I'm gonna just make that tomorrow when it's like ready to serve. So this recipe is so simple, and that's why I always volunteer to like make string beans, because it is so unbelievably simple. So first things first, you need smoked pork neck bones. I'm choosing to use pork. You can use turkey neck bones. You can use whatever you want. I'm using pork. I also have some cans of string beans here, 3 cans of Hanover cut string beans, specifically the cut ones. I don't like the French cut. I like just like the regular cut that looks just like this. And then I have 2 containers of chicken broth, and then some what are these called, chicken bouillon cubes. So I got the chicken broth in less sodium or low sodium, because we're already going to be adding enough sodium in with the chicken bouillon cubes. So let me show you how simple. And I got my pot that I had for the sauerkraut. I rinsed it out and everything like that. Let me show you guys how simple and easy this recipe is. Oh my gosh, these smell so good. So I go ahead and put this in at the bottom. Really don't need 2 of them. I'm gonna just put that there. I'm gonna just throw in the other one because I have no use for the other one. So I just put both of those in the bottom of the pot. And so that way, like the string beans, they just need to simmer. The neck bones, they still need to simmer as well, but they really need to break apart. So I want them closest to the flame. And now I'm gonna add in my cans of string beans. I have already drained these. It has no string bean juice in it whatsoever. The can opener was giving us a hard time again, so it's going to be the ultimate struggle trying to get these out. 2, 3. And we're going to have greens too, so it's not like this is the only, like we're going to have collard greens, and then they also wanted string beans. Yes. All right, so I'm gonna just level that out. I'm gonna put in 2 chicken bouillon cubes. Just pop these up under there. Just bury these into the string beans a little bit. And then I'm gonna cover all of this with chicken stock. I want my string beans completely covered, so it's like 2 and like 1/4 containers of chicken stock. Yes. Okay, so this is what it's looking like right now. So again, smoked turkey neck bones at the bottom. I mean smoked pork neck bones at the bottom, string beans, and the chicken bouillon cubes. Oh, and the chicken stock. So This is literally going to sit on the stove for like 6 hours. And again, we're not really looking for the string beans to do much, but we're looking for those pork neck bones to just like fall apart, and to the point where you can just shred it into the string beans. So I'm gonna put these on, and then in 6 hours they'll be done. I'm gonna put them in a pan, sit them out, and then they'll be ready for tomorrow. So quick, simple, and easy.
Doesn't matter if the snow is falling or the wind blows and the rain is pouring. It will always be Christmas in my heart. But this year I wanna hang out with my friends and family, making angels in the sand. You and me. Doesn't matter, it is Christmas in my heart.
Good morning, HL fam. So it is officially Thanksgiving Day. All of my sides and my desserts are prepared, and I just wanted to show you how everything turned out. So first and foremost, we got the sauerkraut. So this, as you guys know, I finished this yesterday, and I just put a lid on it. Well, I set it out for a few hours until it cooled completely down, and then I set a lid on it and put it in the fridge. And then back here are our string beans with our smoked pork neck bones. The neck bones just completely fell apart. So this is a like so low maintenance. Once you pull the string beans out, the neck bones will just fall apart. And then lastly, I have those the apple pie cheesecake bars. So once I let this cool down, I put this in the refrigerator for probably a few hours, and then it was firm enough for me to cut it. And then I finished it off with this Ghirardelli caramel sauce, and that's what you see all over the top. So I really hope that you enjoyed like this Thanksgiving meal prep cook with me. I'm gonna try to record the other cake that I'm gonna make later today when I get to my cousin's house, because as I was telling you guys, I don't want the caramel to harden, and that cake really should be served warm. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and we will see you in another day of Vlogmas. Peace.